Hello, welcome back to Sextras.
Where we talk about sex and all the extras.
Yes, I'm Honey, and I love Oscar Wilde with a passion.
Yeah, he do be cute.
He do be so cute though.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Maria, and I am and always will be Team Edward.
Yes. Fun fact, just to add to the other fun facts, Robert Pattinson went to our school, so, you
So we're
know,
basically, like in each other's lives, pretty connected.
yeah, he definitely knows we exist.
Yeah. He's literally like my top celebrity crush, I think.
I
He's so
literally don't
hot.
know who my celebrity crush is. Like, do I have one?
I have
I don't
so
know if I
many.
do. I used to love Peter from the Hunger Games. Oh my god, I loved him so much.
Me too. It's like all we talked about when we became friends, remember?
Yeah. And then we pretended that we met Liam Hemsworth in Putney. And we like signed Maria's phone case with his like fake autograph to pretend that we met him. It was so dumb.
Yeah.
So this week we have quite a deep topic. Maria chose the topic. She's just been getting really deep.
Yeah, I just love being deep.
Yeah. I think we've just been really deep on our Instagram in general, but that's fine. I think it's good to be deep sometimes.
Yeah, if you want to join in, follow us at Sextras Podcast on Instagram.
Yes, please. And so basically, this week we're talking about. I don't know why it's taken me this long to actually say what the topic is. We're talking about our faults in love, and we just really want to reflect on what some of our faults are. I think it's really important to kind of have some kind of awareness of what your issues are going into a relationship, so maybe it makes it a little bit more bearable for both people going into it.
I was just gonna say that I also think it's important in terms of like us even talking about our problems and stuff, like acknowledging that everyone's relationship has problems and there's problems like all the time and it's a normal
Yeah.
thing, and I think to be normalized being able to talk about it rather than
Mm-hmm.
like pretending that we have this picture perfect relationship, which I'm sure none of you actually think. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like, to just kind of refocus this podcast. Going into it, we really wanted to make it a means for us to educate people and also be educated too. And, like, the only way we can do that is if we keep kind of examining our own roles in our relationships and our own roles in how we view sex and relationships and all of the things that we talk about. And also just to kind of show you guys that, like, obviously we have never tried to claim that we're experts. We're definitely not experts. We're literally just two 20-year-old girls who want to learn a little bit more about sex and relationships and want to help people learn a bit more too. So yeah, that's kind of the purpose of this episode, really. And basically, we both watched the School of Life video, which I've been really into School of Life recently. But I watched a video called Are You Difficult to Love? I'll put it in the description. But I think it's really interesting, kind of really knowing yourself enough to be able to admit that things are wrong with you. And if people get annoyed at you, kind of already having it in your head, oh, I'm annoying, and then not being completely surprised about the fact that you're annoying. And I think like humility and self awareness are such important parts in a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's so easy sometimes to blame other people for things and blame your partner for doing something wrong, and we like to absolve ourselves of blame a lot of the time, not even in relationships, just like in general. So I think there's a lot of value in sort of looking at what part am I playing in all of this, because everyone is playing a part, like whether you like to admit it or not.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe you're annoying in ways that you just wouldn't really realize outside of relationships. And then when you get into a relationship, you start suddenly seeing all these things that are wrong with you, and then you start being really self-critical. And then even that in itself is a flaw, because no one wants to be in a relationship with someone who's self-critical all the time, and like someone that doesn't know themselves, because that just leads to so many more problems. So yeah, basically we just really want to encourage you guys to also do the same, whether that's in like your friendships or just your relationships, like even just people that you live with.
Yeah. And just like one final quick disclaimer is we are going to be using a lot of like I language and talking about our own really specific examples of things that I'm sure a lot of you won't be able to relate, and it's not really like advice based. It's more just kind of us talking about our lives really and our experiences. But I hope that some of that like resonates with some of you, and just generally opens up the conversation about like thinking about these sort of things and asking each other's, and we're gonna ask each other like some questions and ask ourselves some questions, you know, and hopefully it's like the kind of questions you can then ask yourself and about your relationship.
Yeah, and I think our goal is always to just like leave you thinking about things a bit more. Like, even if you can't completely relate to things like the episode, like the long distance relationships, and obviously not everyone's in long distance relationships, so maybe you can't relate, but maybe you'll just think about it a bit more. And I think even that is an important step. So, yeah. And also in this episode, we are going to kind of be, well, at least I'm want to talk about attachment styles. I don't know about you, Maria, but I watched another School of Life video where they talk about avoidant and anxious attachment styles. And yeah, 50% of the population are either avoidant or anxious, and then the other 50% are secure. So maybe it will just encourage some compassion for people who have a different attachment style from you. Or maybe you'll be like, thank God it's not just me, you know?
Yeah. And you guys should you can do a little attachment style quiz. It's like, I don't know, I love doing these kinds of things, so you guys can go find out your attachment style and let us know.
And also it just helps to explain so many things. So many things are a part of your attachment style that you just wouldn't have really realized. So I think that's helpful. Like, it's kind of wild that so much comes from that.
100%. Should we get onto the segment then?
Yes. So we asked you guys to answer why you're difficult to love. So the prompt was, I think I'm difficult to love because someone said, I'm so sharp and struggle to be sensitive of others. Yeah, I feel this. I think it's easy to kind of just get caught up in your way as like the right way, and then not being able to understand where the other person is coming from, or even like consider that their point of view is valid.
Yeah, and then in another sense, because I kind of read it as like, I'm really blunt and I struggle to be sensitive of others. I feel that sometimes I just say things because I don't realize that other people would find it offensive. So
yeah, for sure.
Someone else said, I'm way out of everyone's league.
So true. Know your worth.
Know your worth.
No, but I feel like this is just another thing we were saying, is like humility is so important, you know. I think it's not good to set such high standards for people. It just sets yourself up for disappointment. So
yeah.
Someone said I'm insecure.
Loads of people said I'm insecure actually, and I mean, I relate. We can get into that a little bit later.
Yeah. I feel like everyone has this, and everyone feels like their insecurity contributes to their relationship. And that's also why we want to encourage everyone to love yourself first, so then that doesn't happen.
As someone said, because I'm not good at showing affection.
Too real. But you know what, I'm really learning, so you can do it too. If I can do it, you can do it too, because literally my mom called me a psychopath.
But then again, it's also about like knowing yourself, like love languages, and your partner knowing themselves. If they know that, like, you know, maybe you just need to be with someone that their love language isn't showing affection.
Yeah, or maybe you just need to like have some kind of understanding and meet in the middle. Like, just because someone isn't as good as showing affection doesn't mean they don't love you. You just have to understand people express things in different ways.
I also think that being bad at showing affection doesn't make you difficult to love. You just show it in a different way.
I mean, it depends how that manifests, really. Like, if you literally never tell your partner that you love them, or like you find it difficult to like touch them and be openly affectionate all the time, I think maybe that is a problem. But I think it's just kind of having to meet halfway most of the time. Like, I don't think most people are like that, so you're not alone.
Someone said, I like things my way.
Yeah, I feel that too. Don't we all? Someone said, I'm impulsive and forget to communicate what I'm doing in the moment. I feel like it's difficult to adjust to being in a relationship in terms of you kind of forget that you have to hold yourself accountable to the other person. Like, it's not just like you go about your life and that just makes it okay. Even if you are independent, and like, I want to get into this later because I am also independent, like really super independent, and that's what I'm used to. But like, being able to communicate to someone, oh, this is what I'm doing right now, like, sorry, I can't talk, or like, sorry, my mind's in a different place, or I'm like focused on this other thing right now. Just giving people a heads up, I feel like that helps.
Yeah, I agree.
Except I'm not really very impulsive. Actually, maybe I am. I think my boyfriend thinks that I am. But I don't think I act on it. It's more just like I'm gonna do this, and then I like talk about it, and then it doesn't really happen.
I see, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts? Like, do you really think that if you're dating someone, like, do you want to know what they're up to and like where they're going and where they are, and like, what are your thoughts on having them on like your Find My Friends or that kind of thing? Like, do you think that that's like a normal thing to expect and ask of someone, to like, kind of know where they're at all the time?
Yeah, you should never have the expectation, because then, as I was saying, that kind of just sets you up for failure. But I think asking to have someone will Find My Friends if you need it, and like being able to have some self-control and not be constantly checking like obsessively, that is a healthy thing to have, you know, like if you really need it. Or,
yeah, but why do you think you like someone would even need it realistically?
I don't know,
like this is kind of my thought. It's like, I don't need to know where my friends are 24/7. Why do I need to know where my boyfriend is 24/7?
Yeah, that's true, but it's kind of nice to just know. Like, I would want to know what you're doing. Like, not in a weird way. I'm just like, oh, I wonder what she's doing right now. But, like, yeah, it's not even in a weird way with my boyfriend. It's like, I don't need to know everything he's doing. It's just, if there is a situation where I do want to know, then I don't have to, like, get super anxious because he's not replying to my text for, like, 4 hours, and I'm like, what the fuck's he doing? I can just look and be like, okay, he's here, he's fine. Or like, I don't know, but maybe then it does open up more room to be even more anxious, because then you overthink it. So then I don't know.
But would it be like a deal breaker? But would it be a deal breaker for you if you asked and then your boyfriend was like, no, what the fuck, you can't have me on Find My Friends?
No, because I have asked and he said no. He like turned it off. He has me, but like I doubt he ever looks at it. I don't know if he does. But like, what's he gonna look for? Because I literally never go anywhere. I don't do anything. But to be fair, like, I don't really want to know like his day-to-day life. Like, I don't want to know that. I just want to know if we're gonna talk. And I think it's kind of different if you're in a long distance relationship. Like, oh, we're gonna talk at a certain time, and then he doesn't like reply at that time. Then I'm like, what are you doing? Like, where are you? Then that's kind of the situation where I'd want to know, or I just want like some kind of respect and like giving me some kind of warning.
I guess, I don't know, I do think that there's like a thin line of like how much, like, because basically I'm just going off of like forget to communicate what I'm doing in the moment, in the what someone submitted, just like how much should you really communicate with your partner about what you're up to, and like how much is like too little. I guess it's obviously something you have to discuss between, like, it depends obviously from person to person, but I don't know, I just wanted to
but it
hear
shouldn't
your
be like
opinion.
you have to think about that extra level, like just going about your day-to-day life. Oh, I have to tell, like, oh, I'm about to like take a shit. Oh
Yeah, but
yeah,
it's
I'm
such a
gonna
weird
text them.
thing though.
Like,
I
you
don't know,
shouldn't have to do that. I'm just saying, like, in exceptional cases, you know, like, oh, I'm about to, like, go buy a car because I just had the impulse to, and then you're, like, not keeping them up to date and you're not replying to them, then that's kind of, like, disrespectful. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
I
I
would be
do
a
see
bit
the
pissed off.
disrespectful part of like when if you're not replying, and if you are like refusing to tell someone where you are. I think that's a bit weird because it's like, why do you care? But I don't know. I do think it's a bit weird to like that we just have this idea that in relationships, like, you just should like be telling each other what you're doing all the time. Do you know? It's like
Yeah,
it's
but
such a
that's not
weird
what I
thing.
think. That's not what I think. Like, it's just if I ask, then I want to know, and if I don't get an answer, then I want to have a backup.
Yeah,
Like,
I know, but
but I'm
like,
not going to be unreasonably asking you at all hours of the day, what are you doing? What are you doing? Tell me where you are.
yeah, I know, but I wish that my boyfriend texted me like all day telling me like what he's up to. I wish I could text him like everything that I was up to. And with my ex, like, we used to do that. I would literally talked all the time, and I love that shit. But like with my friends, for instance, if they told me, I literally wouldn't care what they were doing all day. Like, I would
Yeah,
just be like, great, I didn't
it's a
know.
bit overwhelming.
I don't know. I think it's a weird thing, like relationship thing. This like weird expectation that you like know where each other are all the time. I think it's kind of weird. But I do. I mean, like, I do get it because I do like feel that. I do want to know
Yeah,
what my
because it's
boyfriend's up
like,
to all the time. But I do think it's weird.
your time is their time and their time is your time, especially like if you live together or stuff like that. I don't know, it's kind of like your lives become entwined in a different way than with friends. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know
No, I
why the
do see what you mean.
expectation is different. And I do think it is kind of worse with like phones, because we have the ability to know, like, we kind of just want it. You just want it, regardless of whether it's reasonable. Like, we have that option. Anyway, let's move on from
Yeah.
this.
Sorry.
um
Some people said like I overthink and I get really easily anxious about little things, and same, baby, same.
yeah, a lot of people said insecure as well. I feel this.
It's kind of exhausting.
Yeah, but we're gonna
And
get
then
into that.
yeah. But also along the same vein, people said like I'm a perfectionist and I'm picky.
I
By
mean, I
perfectionist,
feel
it
like
just makes me
everyone
think of
is.
like control freak, and like same. I That's kind of how I see it. Like I'm a perfectionist, and like I like knowing how things will turn out, and like being
I
able
don't
to
know if I
know.
am.
I think I am a little bit.
I am with like very specific things, but I don't think in general I am.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is kind of the same vibe. Maybe I am also with specific things, because I'm kind of like an unorganized person, but also I like to be in control of things.
Yeah, but I am quite picky about things.
Mm.
Like, but it's also certain things. It's not like I can't function in my day-to-day life because everything is like has to be
Mm. Well,
interesting.
someone said that they're picky. Do you think you're picky?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is like I don't know if I'm picky. Like I'm picky with like the way I want my food to be on the plate. Like I don't want
Yeah,
I
but
don't want
we're
anything
talking
to be
about
touching.
we're talking about the context of like, why am I difficult to love? Oh,
Yeah,
I
but
was saying
maybe
it
that
more in
makes you
picky and like a
difficult to
partner
love.
picky.
Oh, no, I wasn't thinking about that. I don't
Oh,
think I'm picky.
maybe they do mean like picky in life though.
Yeah, that's what I was taking it as.
Ah.
Like, I think I'm picky, like, oh, don't put that, like, banana skin next to me. I don't want it. Like, please get it away from me. Or, like, I don't put my food touching on the plate. Or, like, I don't want the sauce. Like, I don't want my, like, sriracha on top of it. I want it on the side.
Yeah, but that's just being particular. Like, I don't think you're that picky, really. Because, like, it's not going to ruin everything. If it wasn't like that, you'd still eat it.
Yeah, true. But that's because I don't like wasting food. So then maybe it's just like layers of it. I mean, I don't know. Everyone's difficult in like their own way. So like
Yeah,
everyone's picky in their own way. Everyone has something. Like some people don't like their knees to touch while they sleep. Like that's weird.
Yeah,
Like
my
what's with
ex didn't
that?
like her legs touching when she slept.
I don't get that. See, like everyone has different things that they think are weird. So
Yeah.
someone said they hate genuine affection.
Deep.
Yeah, that does kind of make you difficult to love. Sorry.
That's so hard.
But, like, what do you do then? Like, I do completely get it. I get why someone's like that, but then I feel like that's kind of the biggest thing in being loved is affection.
I guess.
Like, genuine affection.
Yeah, but maybe they just haven't really found the kind of affection that they respond to.
Yeah, true. Maybe you should explore your love languages too. And then someone said, I'm not a morning person.
So many of people aren't. It's fine. I'm sure you
Yeah,
can
I
find
don't think
someone
that
that will
makes
get
you
it.
like intolerable. Like, who cares? I'm not really a morning person.
I'm difficult to love because I am a morning person.
Yeah, Maria
And my
is
boyfriend hates
so
him when I wake
annoying
him
in the
up.
morning.
I'm not annoying. I'm just high energy.
Yeah, it's too much energy for me in the morning. Like, I need to have coffee first, and then I can't have like a serious conversation before I have coffee and like food. I know that it won't go well. Let's move on, shall we?
Yeah.
To what we think makes us difficult to love.
What do you think makes you difficult to love?
What do I think?
Mm-hmm.
The main thing I would say is I think I'm like super insensitive sometimes. Not in like I say insensitive things, but like I really struggle to be sympathetic when someone else is like upset or annoyed because I can't understand why they're upset unless I know like the whole situation and like I know what's been happening. I can't just like comfort them because I genuinely just don't know what to say. Like, I just don't know what to say unless I know the situation. I feel like my advice is very, like, situation based. So I think it's difficult because, like, I should just be able to step back and be like, okay, well, they're upset, so I should just comfort them regardless of what it is. But that's not how I am. So, but I'm working on it.
So you think you're difficult to love because you're insensitive and you lack showing affection?
No, but it's not affection because I can still show affection if they're upset. I just don't know how to help. Like, I don't know how to comfort them and make them feel better. Because, like, my boyfriend's love language is, like, touch. I can, like, hug him if he's upset. If it's not, like, in an argument. Like, if it's in an argument, he wants to be hugged. But I don't want to hug him if we're in an argument because I'm annoyed. But if he's upset, then I can hug him. But seeing as we're long distance, then I kind of have only, like, my words. And I just don't know what to say. I'm just, like, I can't even be like, oh, it's okay, because I can't say things if I don't believe it. Like, I don't want to say it if it's not true, if I don't know that it's
Mm.
going to be true.
But do you think that that's like only in your in this particular relationship? Like it's just sort of more of a fault that you have like in the relationship rather than why you are personally difficult to love, or do you think that that's like something that permeates like sort of throughout, so it's like more about you rather than the mix of people? Do you know what I mean?
I think it's kind of both. Like, I think it's partly from my last relationship, kind of sympathy just wearing thin at some point, and it is kind of also in this relationship to some extent, because I kind of just have this idea in my head that, like, no amount of sympathy I give will ever be enough, you know? But I also think it's kind of how I am, because then going back to like attachment theories, like, I think I am mainly like avoidant. I am mainly partly avoidant, partly anxious, but mainly I'm avoidant. And I've been reading loads of stuff and like watching loads of stuff about it, and like it is kind of just like a thing to do with avoidant attachment styles that you can't really understand, burdened by this like emotional response in the other person. Not like they're being a burden, but it just feels like you can't understand it, so then you kind of detach rather than being able
Mm-hmm.
to like think in terms of their emotional response rather than like rationally.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's kind of how I am, and like I think I'm very logical as well, so that kind of just plays into it.
Hmm. Well, to be fair, what you just said about like the avoidant and like sort of not being able to like know how you feel about it or like how to help or like what to say and all of these things, I kind of feel like that like that's kind of helpful and resonates with me because I feel like I'm often in the other side of it. So it kind of
Mm.
helps that it's like it's just this like not knowing. It's not that you don't want to or that you don't care. It's just that you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is like some kind of therapy for us, because Maria is like, well, I'll let you speak for yourself, but like just quickly, like you're like an anxious attachment style and I'm mainly avoidant, and then we're both dating people who are like kind of the other way around, we think, but we don't
Yeah.
really know. But like it would be interesting to have their input. But yeah, so we kind of just like give each other therapy. Like, this is what I think, and like this is maybe how your boyfriend's
Mm.
thinking. Like maybe that helps you understand it a bit more. Yeah, so what would you say is like the main reason why you think you're difficult to love?
I think I'm difficult to love because I sort of I think first of all I always decide that I love more than the other person. So like that's already a prerequisite, and it's like it's not even something that I like have a doubt of in my mind. Like I just know it.
Hmm.
And it's something that I so then I just decide like impose however the other person is feeling or like upon them, like they don't get to decide. And like whatever they say, I'm not going to believe it because wholeheartedly I already believe that I love them more. So then that kind of makes me like hold them to this, like hold people to this standard and expectation of like someone that will just mesh together perfectly. Like they will perfectly complement my flaws and I'll perfectly complement theirs, and um like my flaws won't be flaws to them. Like, do you know what I mean? Like all of these things that I find myself asking for all the time, I won't have to ask. Like they'll already know how to give it. And like I feel like I have this secret idea of how what's going to happen and like how I'm going to find this perfect person. And then when people don't do that and when people don't love me like in the way that I expect, that I'm like waiting for them to love me, because obviously you can't like dictate how someone's going to love you. You can't make anyone do anything.
Mm.
Um then I'm disappointed and I get mad at them, and like because I'm setting this unfair expectation of this like soulmate kind of person and blaming
Yeah.
them for its failure. when when they are like not being this perfect ideal person that's not real.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of mainly my problem. And then because there's this idea of like being loved less, I feel like then I get scared of like fighting or arguing or asking for what I want because I'm scared that they'll leave me. Because I don't know, I think basically I'm really insecure. I think that's why it's hard to love me, because and I'm really emotional. That's another thing that I think is hard about loving me. Oh yeah, another thing, I have like I'm sad, and I get sad in a way that a lot of people don't. So I think that can be hard.
Do you think when you say like that you overthink, do you think that comes with this idea that you kind of have this unrealistic expectation? Like, do you think that's part of it, or is other things that you overthink kind of mainly falling within that category, or are they more outside of it?
I feel like I overthink pretty much anything. Like, I don't know. I feel like I worry all the time, and that can be really overwhelming for other people, I reckon. But obviously, like, I think a lot of it does stem from this sort of like, oh, it's not going this way. It's not going like, I think I spend a lot of time idealizing how something is meant to be, and then when it doesn't turn out that way, I start to think meanings into something that had no meaning. Like, it's like yeah, I don't know, I'll always think that something's wrong because like my boyfriend didn't do this or that, when it's just like an idea that I had come up with in my head. So yeah, I think it's I don't know, I just overthink about pretty much everything, and I tend to spiral a lot, and then it's sort of hard to pull me back from that. Like, I feel like I find when me and my boyfriend are fighting, like he'll say sort of like, yeah, but why do you feel this way? Like, what exactly is making you feel upset or whatever? And then I can't think of any examples because I've spiraled so far out of like the thing that we were even fighting about. Like, I spiraled into why we have to break up and why we're ultimately like not meant to be together, and why like the universe is like basically trying to send us a sign. And like, I don't know, I feel like I turn everything into the biggest extreme.
And so it's like these things, is it part of like your everyday life, like just general life, or does it kind of come up more when there's conflict? I mean, obviously naturally it would come up more, but is it kind of all the time is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of all the time, because even sometimes like I'll bring up things and my boyfriend will literally be like, what, I had no idea that like you were even upset, like where is this coming from? So I think like a lot of the time I grab onto things and then I like literally run with it in my head, and it's like gone so far, and it gone from like A to Z in 0 time. And I think that's kind of hard to keep up with. Like, I think my mind sometimes gets a bit carried away.
Do you find that like it gets better when you talk about it, or like when you bring it up?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm pretty good at knowing like how I feel, or like reflecting on things and thinking and being like, yeah, I'm really sure like this is how I feel and this is why, and A, B, C, blah blah blah. And then when we're like when and I and like I say that I'm really good at it, but then I find it really hard to talk about it. Even though I often think that I'm actually really good at talking about my emotions and like I'm really emotionally mature and all of this shit, but then when it actually comes to like saying exactly how I feel, I find it really hard, and I stumble a lot over my words and shit like that. But I mean,
that's interesting.
I don't know, I feel like it comes a lot of insecurity and a lot of overthinking can kind of like permeate into everything, and then that turns into like mini little flaws and mini little like things that make you difficult to love, and it's just this kind of like overarching monster.
That sounds so overwhelming. I'm like stressed out just thinking about it, because like I do, like when I hear things about anxious attachment styles, like it kind of makes sense to me that that's kind of how I would be, because like I do get anxious about things, like I really overthink things, but I don't think it's necessarily in terms of my relationship. Like the biggest, like I think my biggest problems are in terms of like when there's conflict, rather than it being like an overarching thing. Like maybe there are more ways that it manifests itself like in my day-to-day life that I just don't really notice, because it's just me like going about my life, and like it only is like noticeable in conflict with someone else. So I don't know, like it's kind of difficult to know, but yeah, that just sounds so overwhelming. Like, but it's so overwhelming for me when I feel like detached from conflict. Like that's really overwhelming, but so maybe it kind of evens out.
Yeah,
Mine's
well, I
just
feel
like concentrated into one moment, and yours is like stretched out.
I feel like maybe you are just so sort of like overwhelmed that you do detached, and instead of like in my head I kind of see it as like we're both presented with conflict and you sort of like step back, whereas like I latch on to like what the first thing that I can find, and then I don't know. So I guess they're both problematic either way.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think? Do you find that sort of like being mentally ill makes you difficult to love, or have you sort of come to terms with that? Do you think it? Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I don't know, because like I don't know what's like wrong with my mind. Like I know that I'm anxious, but I don't really know anything else, because I just don't, like I've never gotten a diagnosis or anything. I've kind of just self-diagnosed as like anxious or whatever. But I think I've kind of come to terms with it, because I think it very much goes in phases. Like it's not, like I was saying, it's not like a constant thing for me. It is more just like I will go through intense periods. So then maybe in those periods I definitely think, yeah, I'm probably more difficult to love, and I'll be way more irritable. And like that's another thing, is I think I'm super irritable sometimes, and it's mainly in those periods. So yeah, I think that's probably super difficult, and like making the other person feel like on edge to like bring things up because they think I'm gonna get annoyed. But then even knowing that someone thinks that about me makes me annoyed, because I don't want to fulfill that like idea that they have, or like that premonition that I'm gonna get annoyed at something, because like I don't like being that way, and I don't want to be that way, but I can sometimes be that way, but I don't think I'm always that way. So then it's kind of difficult to like find the balance. And maybe that's even worse. Maybe it would just be better if I was always that way, so then they would know, rather than like having like a lucky dip kind of situation.
Well, it's kind of like in the video, like he says how, yeah, obviously in the video about am I difficult to love, but he's saying how a lot of the annoying habits or like shitty things, like maybe being irritable, like you don't notice it until you're with someone else, like,
Yeah.
and I feel like it gets amplified, and you think that it's so much worse because you're noticing it so much more, when I feel like if it is something that happens from time to time, like I don't know,
But I think it is
always
more
happens.
like
It happens
time to
everyone.
time in general. Like I definitely notice days where I'm like, why am I getting irritated by this, even when I'm just by myself. But then there are also days where I just won't get annoyed by those things. Like, so I think overall, like I can be, like my boyfriend tells me a lot that I am just too chill, and that I just don't care enough about things. So maybe that's like kind of an issue too.
That's what I
Maybe
always
that
tell
makes
my
me
boyfriend.
difficult to love. Yeah.
My boyfriend thinks I care too much about everything.
Yeah, so maybe I'm just like too chill. And then in situations where like I'm already anxious about something regardless of my relationship, that makes it like, I think I just take it out on the other person, and I think that makes me difficult to love. And I think I'm bad at apologizing. But actually, I don't know if I think that, because that's what my boyfriend thinks about me. Like, I think, because in my mind, I'm like, why would I apologize unless I really mean it? Like, I don't want to be asked to apologize, which is like another typical thing of like being an avoidant. But like, I don't want to be asked, because that makes me think that it's not genuine. Like, it all goes back to this thing of, I just want to be genuine. I don't want to say things if I think that it's not coming from a genuine place. And like, a lot of the time I can apologize, and I will apologize if I really feel like I've done something wrong. But other times I won't apologize because I don't see that I've done something wrong, even if they're upset, you know? Like, maybe that's kind of problematic. Like, what do you think? Tell me that I'm okay. Tell me I'm a nice person.
I mean, I feel like it kind of makes sense to not want to apologize, like when you don't think you've done anything wrong. But do I think it makes you difficult to love to kind of be hard to come to an apology? Like, yeah, it makes things a little bit harder because then it means that. But I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's worse than just like being fine with apologizing, because I think I'm kind of the opposite. Like, I always just want it to go away. So
Yeah.
then I tend to, like, sometimes I will just apologize too quickly, or like, I don't know, I don't have any problem with apologizing. And I feel like sometimes that can be problematic because then you end up saying sorry for a lot of shit you're not sorry for. Like, the amount of shit I've
Yeah.
apologized where, like, why am I saying sorry? Like,
Yeah,
there's
that's what I
no
have a
need.
problem with, is I don't ever want to be in that position, because
Uh-huh.
I just don't want to do that. Like, you can't guarantee that that same thing isn't going to happen again if you don't mean that apology. And I'd rather have not said that apology and potentially have it happen again and then feel worse about it the second time and then apologize, than keep doing it multiple times and keep apologizing every time but not actually doing anything because you didn't mean the apology, you know?
Mm. Yeah. 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 Yes, yes, yes. I understand. I feel like apology is like um a scary line to cross, because there is such a thing as like apologizing too much, and there's such a thing as apologizing too little.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, I mean, I don't think your apology style necessarily can make you difficult to love, but I think it can make you difficult to like solve, like, move around conflict, you know?
Yeah, but then doesn't that inherently make you difficult to love?
Yeah, I guess.
What else do you think makes you difficult to love?
I think I'm a bit needy. I think I think that I by needy I mean like a little bit codependent. Like, I sort of kind of like how I was saying earlier, like how I latch on to things and then start spiraling.
Hmm.
Like, I sort of latch on to people and then I sort of give them all my energy and time and everything, and like my life revolves around them, and I think that makes me difficult to love because then it makes me very, like, way too available to people in a way that's a
Hmm.
bit like suffocating, I think. Well, at least that's kind of the feedback that I have gotten, I think. And yeah, and then I think, yeah, so I guess being a bit like clingy and needy makes me difficult to love
Hmm.
because I find it, I want us to be like us against the world rather than us as singular people. I kind of struggle with that. Like, I kind of want to make them part of my life in every way, shape, and form. Which,
Yeah.
don't you think, like, you think you're difficult to love because you're too independent?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's really interesting that you're saying that because, well, firstly, like now that you're saying that, I'm like, I kind of do want it to be like two people coming together, and I think that I do make myself like available to people. Like, I think I
Hmm.
am very available to people and to my boyfriend, but then maybe that's not actually what I'm like, and that's just what I think I'm like because he is always telling me that, like, and I know this as well, that I am like super independent. And that's just kind of how I always have been. And like my ex also had a problem with this, in that like I can't really ask for help or like just don't really rely on anyone. Like I do
Oh
kind of
yeah, that
rely,
bothers me.
like I can't, like
That
I
bothers
just
me
don't
about
want to,
you.
I really.
Yeah, it's really frustrating to like want to help someone and they just don't let you help them.
Yeah, I just
It's
don't want to
really,
have to rely on someone. I don't want to know in my mind that I'm relying on someone because then,
yeah.
like, this is also what they were saying in the School of Life videos, that, like, in essence, maybe avoidant and anxious attachment styles kind of do just come down to the same thing, and that you're kind of just, like, scared of losing something because, like, I think that I don't want to rely on someone because I don't want to then have it be taken away from me and then be left in that, like, space of having had relied on someone and then it disappearing.
Mhm. I think I
So,
have like the opposite. I just want like I rely on people a bit too much.
yeah. But then I'm also thinking that, like I do, like, do you think that I do make myself readily available? I don't know. Like, now I'm reconsidering it because I do think that, like, I try to be there for people and, like, I will, like, be on the phone with someone as soon as they need me to be, like, but then
I
also,
think you, yeah, I don't know. I think you're definitely not like not making yourself available.
yeah,
Like
but then
you're
maybe,
the kind of person that I know that I could call you and you would pick up. If and if you're busy, you would be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll call you back." But then maybe that's
yeah,
just me though. Like I don't know how other people feel towards you, but like you are the
yeah,
kind of
but
person that I know I could do that.
maybe being unavailable and, like, independent on the same thing
Yeah, no, I don't think they're the
because,
same thing.
like, I don't know, in my mind, like, maybe this is just me being super self-important, but, like, being independent means that I can kind of, like, I feel like I have a really good sense of self, and I feel like I can get myself through things. But then maybe that is just kind of, like, this protection against being super vulnerable with people,
Yeah,
because
but
I'm
why do
like,
you
oh,
think
I
that
have
makes you
myself.
difficult to love, like being independent?
Because I can't rely on people.
I see you find it harder to like make yourself vulnerable.
Yeah, and people thrive on knowing that they add importance to people's lives. Like, people thrive on knowing they can help people. And then
Mm.
when you love someone and they don't want you to help them, or they don't feel like they can add to your life if you're being super independent and you can get through things on their own, it kind of, like, I don't know, maybe it makes them feel like useless.
Oh, I see what you mean. But that's so funny because like my like my boyfriend is like that. He doesn't like I don't ever feel like he needs me. I always
Yeah.
feel like he can do everything by himself. And I see what you mean, like that makes me feel shit, but I've never interpreted that as like, oh, he's damaged. It makes me think I'm damaged. Like I
Yeah.
like this whole independence thing, like I don't see it as being difficult to love. I see it as like, oh, that's kind of like the way you should be.
Yeah, that's exactly what my boyfriend says. But that's so problematic because avoidant and anxious people are, like, drawn to each other. So what? Then the anxious person is just always doomed to feel like they're in the wrong, and the avoidant person is always doomed to feel like they're super, like, self-important and independent because they can get through things by themselves. Like,
No, but also
how do you
I don't
deal with that?
but as someone as someone that is like I attach to people anxiously, I don't feel like like, it's not that I need them necessarily. Like, it's not like I can't get through things by myself. It's more that, like, I don't know. I just want to be comforted more. Do you know what? I don't know. It's so
Yeah.
strange. It's kind
Yeah,
of
it's
a
really problematic. Like, the more
yeah.
we talk about it, the more I'm like, wow, this is kind of fucked up that that's the way people are.
Yeah, because I'm
And that,
like,
like, you're
what
kind of
even is
just
the
doomed.
solution? um, wait, I want to ask you, like, what do you think, um, how are you flawed sort of in your sex life?
I think I get, like, very comfortable with things, and then I'm like, oh, I just want that to happen. Um, and then I think I'm not good at initiating. And I like all these things that I'm saying, I'm actively trying to get better at it. And I
Yeah,
really
same.
want to get better at it. But like maybe it's so ingrained in me that I just can't.
Yeah, so
Like,
many of these things I'm just kind of like, oh, it's just like the way it is. It's just the way I am. And
yeah.
I don't know. I was really thinking about this whole idea of like, I act like I'm so proactive about my life and like, oh yeah, I know what I want and like I'm gonna get there and like when realistically, like so much of the time I fall victim to just being kind of like, oh yeah, but this is just the way things are. Like I have depression, that's just the way things are, so I'm not going to be able to do this and like this is just my personality, it's just the way things are. When like so much of the time that's just out of being like a victim, like in a way. I don't know, don't you think? I
Yeah.
do feel like in a lot of ways it is like inherently a part of like there is a lot of things that is inherently a part of who you are.
Yeah.
Um
This is what
but
I
I think a
mean.
lot of
There's
the
no
times
free will.
but a lot of the time we use like our flaws to excuse shitty behavior and
Yeah.
excuse unhappiness when
Yeah. And
it can
that's why
be
it's so
changed.
important to like be aware of it, you know? Because then
Mm.
you can change it.
Mhm.
And you can, at least if you're not changing it straight away, like acknowledging it is the first step to changing it.
Mhm. So you just want to initiate sex more.
Yeah, and I want to just like be more adventurous. But I have some plans, so I've got some things up my sleeve. I'm just waiting to actually be able to have sex again. What about you?
I agree. I think I'm not. I think I'm good at talking about sex and like what I would like and like talking about sex as an idea. But I feel like when it comes
Hmm.
down to it, I'm not very good at actually implementing all these things that I've been bringing up and being like, oh, I really want to try this and I really want to try that. And like, then I
Yeah,
get really shy and self conscious and I feel like I'm gonna seem really like ridiculous doing it.
that's so funny. I feel like I'm the exact opposite. Like if someone else brings it up, I will be like, yeah, let's do it, but I can't bring it up myself.
Yeah, I don't know. And then, yeah, I feel like I'm not that brave. Like, I'm not very brave in sex and I kind of want to be more brave.
Hmm.
Um, what other flaws? Uh, um, I don't know. I think we sometimes fall like really into routine of like what we know we're gonna like, so then we don't try to go outside that and like try other
Yeah, I
things or
definitely
whatever.
feel that.
So that's kind of stuff I want to try. I want to get better at also just like talking about sex a lot more actively and a lot more specifically rather than in broader terms or like, oh, um or like more generally, like I want to get down to specifically what I would like what specifically is that movement, blah blah blah, that action.
Yeah, I want to be better at like initiating conversations about it and just kind of being like, oh, is that what you like? Or like, what do you want to try? Rather than being stuck in a routine. So yeah, I kind of feel the same.
I also want to get better at having sex. Like, I want to get better at like doing things that the girl can do, even when the guy is like doing most of the work, you know? I want to get better at like getting involved, being part of the movements and whatever. And like, yeah, I don't know. I want to get better at being on top and like taking control, but not in a dominant way. Like, I don't want to take control in a dominant way. I just want to be more part of the physical action.
Yeah, I do too. But do you think that like those things make you difficult to love? I really don't think they make you difficult to love.
What? No, not at all. I was just talking about like
ways you can improve.
Yeah, just general like things to improve that I want to improve in my relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely get that, like wanting to be more brave and like proactive.
But yeah, those are the ugly truths about our sad little imperfections.
Yeah,
and
so
insecurities.
Now you guys
know. But yeah, I really encourage everyone to like find out your attachment style, and if you're in a relationship or whatever, like your partner's attachment style, and I feel like it will make you sort of understand more things about like the fundamental ways in which you interact.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe we'll do an episode if you guys are interested in what each attachment style actually is and like what each love language is, so that kind of helps people understand themselves. I'd love to do that. But yeah, you should let us know if you want to see that on our social media or on email or whatever. But before I plug those quickly, I just wanted to really repeat what we said at the start, and that, you know, I really think it's really important to be conscious of these things and just be mindful of how you are as an individual and an individual going into a relationship, and like how you are compatible or incompatible with someone else. So yeah, hopefully this helped you think about it a bit more, maybe relate to us. And we hope you enjoyed this episode and finding out a little bit more about our lives. If you want to follow us, you can find us on Instagram at Sextras Podcast, on Facebook at Sextras Podcast. You can email us at sextraspodcast@gmail.com. And please leave us a review, rate us, subscribe, and send us any suggestions you have, or if you know anyone who wants to be a guest who you think would make a really good guest, let us know.
Yeah, or if you want to be a guest yourself.
Yeah. And we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Sextras, presented by Honey Jane Wyatt and Maria Jose Hayodatiyi, produced by Mabel Productions.